We are back and we are live. It is Fight IQ presented by Rotowire. Here to talk UFC 243. Our main event is for the middleweight championship of the world. Robert Whittaker taking on, I'm going to call him Bobby Knuckles, taking on Israel, the last style bender, Adesanya. Here as always to break things down from a DraftKings perspective. Hopefully make you guys a little bit of money. I'm your host, the Daily Fantasy Sniper, the co-host, the analyst of the show, the important guys. It is Chris Olsen. You find him on Twitter at @RealChrisOlsen. Joe at Sun Tzu. Guys, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm just hoping that Chris steps up his game on Saturday so we don't completely embarrass ourselves in the battle of the pods. You know, for those of you that have not been following the Twitter exchange, it is Rotowire versus Rotogrinders versus DFS Army versus Fantasy Alarm, the dark horse. 3 players from each team. Aggregate score wins for this slate in Australia. It's myself, Chris Olsen, and Jake. Actually, Jake, you need to step up your game here, my friend. I know Chris dabbles a little.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
DFS Army is going to be hard to beat. Rotogrinders is going to be hard to beat. You know, we can't embarrass ourselves here. I mean, I don't want to just be beating Fantasy Alarm. Haha. So
watch them win now.
I know that would really
it's a matter of strategy. It was interesting. Me and Marley were talking about it. I'm not going to tell you which way we go, but
of course you are.
But the debate is you go cash lineups or you go GPP lineups. What do you do?
It's aggregate points, so you know.
It's interesting. It's interesting. We have a bit of a strategy, but I can't give it away yet. But that's what we have for the pods. By the way, the DFS Army team is myself, where I also do soccer content. Shout out to myself. We are chasing the great Rotowire team, and I got to give a shout out because we're on Rotowire. Andrew Laird does a great job with soccer for those guys. It's myself, Marley, and Eric, also known as the Cash Game Assassin. And I bring up the Rotowire soccer package because it's part of Rotowire's premium pack, as well as Optimizers, NFL, NHL, NBA, all the good stuff that Rotowire does. We're going to be giving away on this podcast tonight, again, a year-long membership to their premium content at Rotowire. It's going to be a contest involving the main event. So when we get to the main event, I'll go over the rules there. I will say, I'll give out the Twitter names one more time. You're going to have to follow all of us on Twitter. I'm at the DF Sniper. Chris is at Real Chris Olsen. Joe is at Sun Tzu. We'll get to the contest a little bit later. I think it's enough of the intro as we have a
well, you're not going to ask me how I am?
Well,
I mean,
I was going to do a lead into it, but you cut me off.
Oh, okay.
I had a plan for it because I was going to say it's a weird, kind of disgusting 11-fight card, and I feel like it's the kind of card that Chris is going to love.
Yeah, well, you're right about that. I mean, I like.
I knew the lead-in.
I'll never doubt you again, but I do like these kind of cards because I feel like any card where I feel like people won't be paying that much attention, I like because I think that there's value to be had. I think that you're right. The 11-fight card, I mean, it's a little harder to make value, so you're going to have a lot more of those maybe would-be scarce dogs, maybe not so scarce, but, there's still plenty of value to go around, and we'll find it. So,
all right, so are we ready for fights now? Are you guys ready to go? Chris, looking at you.
I've been ready. I woke up ready. Let's do it.
All right, let's. So there are weigh-ins happening. By the way, if anybody in chat, I want to, by the way, shout out everybody in chat. And I should say we are brought to you by Rotowire, rotowire.com/free for a 10-day free trial to all their premium content. No credit card required. Thanks to everybody in chat who is watching this live on the Rotowire YouTube channel, live on Friday nights. You can subscribe on iTunes to listen to a recording of that live broadcast at Rotowire MMA on iTunes. Shout out to everybody in chat: Tyler Lee, Vince Roadrunner, Lee Ginsberg, John Tiller, Nan, I'm just going to call him.
Nan.
Tajik. Anybody else who I missed is going to pop in. Shout out to those guys. Appreciate you guys being here. I think now we can get into some fights. Oh,
one thing, Sean. This guy I'm reading on Twitter, Aussie Van Zandt, he's saying everyone missing weight on this card.
That's what I was going to say. Is that weigh-ins are going on right now.
Who's missing weight?
In chat, they've already told me to. If you guys are watching in chat, because I can't do everything, type in who is missing weight. I do know Khalid Taha has missed weight. I know Yeon Kim has missed weight. So we're going to talk about the first one right now, which I think is a big issue. So in chat, if you guys see more people missing weight, please give me a shout out.
Am I wrong, or is that? Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say, am I wrong, or is that Jaeyoung Kim's second fight in a row missing? I feel like she missed the last one too.
Yeah, it could be. Khalid Taha is 8,900, taking on Bruno Silva at 7,300. Taha, the favorite, having missed weight. He is minus 225. The comeback on Silva is plus 205. That's a big weight miss because Bruno Silva is a flyweight moving up to bantamweight, and Khalid Taha has fought at featherweight moving down to bantamweight. And I assume the fight's still going to happen. It'll be Doc Purse, but he's going to be huge in this fight. The better striker. Bruno Silva is going to need to get this fight to the ground. Chris, how do you see it going?
Chris?
Sean, we're losing you.
Christopher. No. Me and Joe are here. You're having issues, bud.
You're having issues, dude.
All right. So while he's looking at that, Joe, how do you see Taha Silva?
Okay, first of all, do we know how many pounds he missed weight by?
I do not. I will, while you're talking.
Okay. I honestly think that this is one of several fights that are interesting to target. And if you don't have a real hot take on the winner, it's probably a decent fight to spread. I mean, obviously, I like the way Taha looked, in his last fight against Boston Salmon. Salmon
40 seconds of it?
Yeah, 25 seconds. Salmon came in with what's really interesting is how he won the fight, right? So Salmon came in with credentialed as a striker, a lot of hype behind him. He gets starched standing in 25 seconds. He did not look awful in his prior fight at featherweight. Now, in hindsight, now it looks like maybe that's his natural weight class, but he did move up a weight. Nadia Niramani couldn't finish him. Niramani's a good fighter, a good 145er, and he lasted the 3 rounds. I like him here. It's a function of, do you want to lay 8.9K? I think he's going to be low owned because there's going to be guys, paying up to get to Matthews, to get to Tuivasa, even to get to Pitolo. So I think he's going to be pretty low owned. So I think this is a sneaky fight to target. I'm going to have both sides, but I'm going to pick Taha to win.
By the way, Taha, not
2 pounds.
The weight you
1
want
pound
to see. 137.
No, I hate that.
Because that means really you have 136. He missed by a pound. It means he was trying to get there.
Yeah. See, I hate that. I want a guy to miss big.
like Prajeris, like 7 pounds off.
Like Mackenzie Dern.
God, we got her fights coming up next week, I think, right?
Oh my God, I love the dog in that fight. Love the dog.
We'll get there next week.
Yep.
Chris, how about this one?
Yeah, I like Taha quite a bit. I think he's a really good boxer. I think he's got a lot of power, and I think he's really pretty good. And the thing about the opponent here, Silva, is that every time you try to look for him, you tend to get results for a much more well-known fighter. He's kind of hard to find tape on. The one full fight of his I could find was him getting knocked out in 6 seconds by a head kick. So that's something.
Tape on him? You can go watch the entire season of Tough 4 Brazil.
Oh yeah, no, you're right about that. But I just mean like on the regional circuit and stuff, on his regional circuit and stuff like that. Yeah. From what I've seen from Silva, he looks like a decent wrestler, or at least a willing one, and that is Taha's kryptonite, or has been. It was his kryptonite in the fight against Narimani, although I know that Narimani was much bigger than him in that fight. But it was also the sticking point in his last loss at Ryzen, which was also one of his last fights before coming to the UFC. So if Silva can get to his wrestling game, I think he could be a problem for Taha potentially. But otherwise, I like Taha to just be the much crisper, more fluid striker here. And I think Silva gets hit a little bit too much. So I'm going to go with Taha here.
By the way, if you're looking for tape, I have to make sure everybody who's looking for old fights, or just in case you don't know for some reason, newsommma.com, and go to their tape index. Every upcoming card, every fight that MMA Lock of the Night does that page for them. Post. It's
and also reach out to Lord Honky on Twitter. I mean, I think that guy's got every fight in the history of MMA, including the old Tough Man contests.
Yeah, I never reach out to him because he posts all the gifts and it's great stuff. Lord Honky's a great follow.
Yeah.
But the tape index saves me a ton of time each week.
It's great.
All right. Moving on. Yeon Kim, who is also missed weight, 8,700, taking on Nadia Kassem at 7,500. Line of this fight, Yeon Kim minus 165. Nadia Kassem plus 155. Wow, is that right? I did not realize that. I was on best fight odds right now. I guess Nadia Kassem opened up as a favorite.
Yes, minus 160.
And the line immediately flipped. Well, that's interesting because I was pretty sure that I was the only one in the world picking Nadia Kassem in this fight.
No, you're not.
That was the impression I was getting. Again, I finished that fight on like Tuesday, and I finished and wrote up my notes and went, I'm going to be pretty alone on this. And I guess I'm not. I think she's one of the best cash game plays on the card. Yeon Kim is 2-2 in the UFC. Her wins are split decisions over bad opponents. Nadia Kassem, not great, but she's younger, improver, dare I say in that way. Everybody hates on her, but she's super young. Reminds me a little bit of Jake Matthews, and everybody hated on him prior to now everybody in the world picking him, which we can talk about later. I think Kassem gets this done late. Path through grappling, though it won't be easy. I like her gas tank more too. This is a really close fight, and for me, there's a ton of value on the dog. Chris, start us off.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't go as far as say a ton of value. It's tough to really trust Nadia Kassem, in my view. I do think she probably wins this because I think that we haven't seen Yeon Kim shoot for a takedown in any of her UFC fights so far. That's basically Kassem's kryptonite. Otherwise, Yeon Kim is just a boxer, and she's a decent boxer. But, I mean, I don't think her pressure is such that because she's going to really suffocate Kassem and get her off of her kicking game, which is how she likes to operate on the feet. Also, she likes to spend time in her guard. She's good at locking up triangles and things. In fact, I think she may like that a little too much. But as I said, Yeon Kim isn't a wrestler, so we don't really have to worry about that. I think that Kassem, look, as I said, she could get it done. But the thing is, the only person we've seen her beat in the octagon is Alex Chambers, who, I mean, no disrespect to her, she comes in and gives it her all every fight, but she's not exactly top-level competition. So, it's tough to put too much stock into Kassem. I think that, honestly, if it comes out from that more people are on Kassem than I realized, that I would go Jung, just because I don't think that Kassem should ever be a public darling in any context. But as it stands, and I have to pick a winner, I'm just going to say she gets it done just because I don't think that just sort of the one-note boxing sort of pressuring style of Kim is enough to get this done here.
Joe?
Yeah, so where I do disagree is I do not think Kassem is a good cash play. I mean, her floor is pretty low.
The fight is like minus 200 to go to the scorecards.
Yeah, there are people that I like more in cash in that price range.
I can't wait to hear.
I do think Kassem is an okay GPP play. Now let's be honest though, right? Kim is a far better and more technical striker. And even as a higher credentialed Brazilian jiu-jitsu practitioner. However, she doesn't seem to want to wrestle. One thing that she has shown, Nadia, is willingness to throw up submissions while on her back. I don't know if she's going to pull guard because I don't think she can actually win a stand-up striking affair. And there's some more narrative too. She had wrist surgery, so she's coming off a wrist surgery. I'm going to pick Kassem. It sounds like I'm going to pick Kim, but I'm not. I'm going to pick Kassem here. It's a fade on a fighter who lost her last fight to Antonio Shevchenko. That was not a good look on her. She had a reach advantage. She was a more technical striker. To me, that wasn't a good look. But I also think that Kim, if you're looking for a punt, is going to be probably the lowest owned fighter north of 8K. I think Dhiego Lima will have higher ownership. So if you're looking for something to punt to, that might not be a bad way to go, but really she's going to have to pretty much get a finish to earn salary, and I don't really see that happening. So I'll take the dog at 7.5K.
Okay, let's breeze through this next one. Zarah Fairn dos Santos. She's a massive underdog, 6,800, taking on Megan Anderson at 9,400. Megan Anderson minus 450 to come back on dos Santos or Fairn or whatever we want to call her, plus 400. Man, they're trying to get Megan Anderson a win. Big striker, hype train has not looked good. 1-2, with that win being a fluky one against Kat Zingano. Got exposed on the ground against Spencer. Got beat by Holly Holm on the ground. So they brought in someone who, as far as I can tell, has no ground game, has nothing except a right hand. Dos Santos has some power, but they are giving Megan Anderson a win here. I'll take advantage of it. Just Dos Santos does not have any skills that I can see other than a right hand. And Megan Anderson, for the flaw she does have, is the better striker. And if you take away all Dos Santos does, I think she'll be in a shit ton of trouble. So give me Anderson. Joe.
Yeah, so obviously this is supposed to be a layup for Anderson. However, at 9.4K on DraftKings, I would preach caution here. I mean, we don't know. I mean, Megan Anderson at 9.4K, I'd be shocked if she made optimal. I'd be shocked if she got 10X. And if she doesn't get a finish early, this fight could get pretty ugly. I mean, if I was her opponent, I would just grind her up, and maybe even try a takedown.
You would grind her up, period.
Yeah, well, no, Megan's I'm more Nadia Kassem if I have to pick one. In any case, I would
great Nadia Kassem conversation going on in chat that I'm going to bring up here.
Yeah, I would try to wear Megan down, right? I mean, this person's got nothing to lose, right? They're flying this French Brazilian in to lose. So there's no pressure on her at all. Megan, in the meanwhile, is going to be fighting in front of, 50,000 fans, home country fight, first UFC. Right? Is this her first fight in Australia in the UFC? I think it might be. In any case, I would plead caution with Megan Anderson. She's going to need an early finish to make optimal. She's going to need an early finish to get 10X. Of course, I'm going to pick her to win, but I don't hate a cash punt at 6.8K, because that opens up so much in your lineups. I don't hate it.
I kind of do. Chris?
Yeah, I was going to say, you say she got exposed on the ground by Felicia Spencer. I think she got exposed on the ground by Holly Holm.
Yeah.
But that's, which is unbelievable. But, I expect her to win here. I expect her to win here too. I'm not going to lie, but I think I see a little more in Fairn than you do, Sean. I think I'm not here to say she's any kind of technical marvel or she got a sophisticated game or anything, but she pressures a lot. She's got a good 1-2. She can jab a little bit, and she's got power. I mean, that's not nothing. And I was looking, and I did see in one of her fights, she actually did hit a double leg, taking her opponent off the fence. So it's not like she's never wrestled before. I don't know how often she does it. That was the only thing I've seen of her wrestling in the 3-4 fights I watched, but it was there. So it's something to be considered. I think that Megan Anderson, in the fights where people have pressured her, which aren't that many, she has shown a little bit of vulnerability there. But I do think whoever's going to pressure first will be the one to win. It's going to be really interesting to see who wins that battle. I'm going to give it to Megan just because I think the kicking game and the length is going to be a little bit too much. But look, if Zarah or Fairn rather tries to go game plan on us and gets her wrestling going, what little there is of it that I saw, that could be something. We still have no evidence that she's corrected that little flaw. Her matchup against Kat Zingano, obviously, we didn't get to see because of some weirdness with the toe in the eye there. So it's kind of weird to me to know how this percentage will go, because do people not trust Megan Anderson enough to just gravitate towards the dog to save, or are they going to pay up for her? So I'm going to be curious about that too, if you guys have any thoughts. But I'm going to pick Megan just because, as I say, I think she's the superior striker and has more tools. But I think it's going to be interesting, and I think it could just be sort of a slugfest. So, interesting fight. I'm going to be on the favorite, but don't completely fade the dog.
Like I say, you guys, I'm having such a hard time building a cash line. If you guys are not helping with my case here, because the issue you're going to run into as you start building is there are three big favorites. Now, I want to bring it up now just because thoughts in my head. You have, well, there's four really. You have to pick. Really, you're going to have two in your cash game lineups most likely. We have Anderson, tied to Tuivasa, Jake Matthews, and Pitolo. Which two are you putting in? Like it's really, really tough. And as it stood, I had Anderson in mine, and now I'm not so sure anymore. So you guys did a convincing job kind of talking me off it. I will say you need to throw out for me, and spoiler for a little bit later where I get yelled at, throw out Jake Matthews. I'm not playing Jake Matthews in cash games.
I am.
Yeah.
Talk about it. Maybe we will talk about it, but you got to play two of the three, and because there's only 11 fights, when you downgrade from Anderson to Pitolo or tie Tuivasa to Pitolo, there's not a lot of flexibility in what you can get. These 11 fights are kind of brutal. Not a lot of roster flexibility.
Nope.
Anyway, so I mean, to answer the question, if you have two of those four, who are you playing? For me right now, it's Anderson and Tuivasa. Joe.
I like Matthews. I think Matthews is the prototypical Australian fighter.
We can do the fight breakdown when we get there. It's still coming up, but for just the question for now, for those two of those four, who are you playing? Which two?
I would play Tuivasa. As it stands now, I would play Tuivasa and Matthews.
Chris?
I agree with Joe. I'm taking the Australian boys.
All right. Interesting enough. All right. It was a good question. We'll talk about those fights as we get to them. But for now, let's go to Brad Riddell at 8,600, taking on Jamie Mullarkey at 7,600. Riddell, the favorite, minus 165. Come back on Mullarkey's plus 155. Riddell, big, powerful kickboxer. Love the way he works the body. Mullarkey, more well-rounded mixed martial artist, has a takedown game. Could have some success there. I think this is a really good GPP fight. I lean towards Riddell. But again, we're searching for cash viable dogs. I don't hate Mullarkey either. But I think it's probably Riddle's a good GPP play. And just an 11-fight card. Riddle's one of the live dogs who his path to victory is probably through grappling. Joe, you start us off.
Yeah, so I pretty much agree. Look, there's one. Take away the narrative here. So here's the narrative. Volkanovski is going to be in his corner. He's Volkanovski's striking coach. He trains at the same gym as Volkanovski and Adesanya. Okay, so let's take that narrative off the table. Forget that you know any of that. You've got a 6-1 fighter, okay, going up against a guy that's younger and has more experience. There's one common opponent. Mullarkey handled that guy quite easily, where Riddell was subbed by him, and that's his one loss. So if you take away that narrative and just look at these two guys face to face with their records, this should at worst be a pick'em fight. And I could even make an argument that Mullarkey should be a favorite, right? So I like Mullarkey. I'm actually going to pick him to win here. I do agree with what Sean said, though. I think Mullarkey is a pretty solid cash play. I think he's got maybe some sneaky GPP upside. He's the better rounded fighter. I don't understand the line. I will have some shares of Riddell for GPPs, but I'm going to pick Mullarkey to get the upset here.
Chris.
So you guys can't see us anymore when I have the screen zoomed in, but my eyes were raised very wide during Joe's breakdown there. I like Riddell a lot. He's one of my most confident favorite plays on this card. I think that as Sean said, he's a really good, powerful kickboxer, and Riddell is just like an average guy in the feet who tends to get hurt a lot. Not only does he tend to get hurt a lot, but he tends to not be able to hold position on the ground even when he tries to. In one of his more recent fights, he had a very tired fighter in front of him. Round 2, went for a takedown, got reversed, and got ground pounded out. I think it was the fight before last. Incidentally, he's been knocked out or stopped by strikes in each of his last 2 fights. One of those was against Volkanovski, that he got knocked out by a punch. But So that's a little weird that that you would even consider him to be at this level, having taken 2 bad losses on the regional scene like that. But also, what I saw in one of Riddle's more recent fights was him getting down and grabbing the leg and manipulating the foot to stop a takedown and actually get on top. So there's a lot that I like for Riddle here, and I just don't see Mullarkey as a talented guy. I don't really see where he excels. I don't see where he's better than Riddle at anything, quite frankly.
Chris, wait. You are a bit misleading here. You're saying that, and maybe I misunderstood you, but I think maybe we need to be clear for our millions of listeners here and viewers.
Yeah,
Mullarkey did not lose his last 2 fights. He's actually on a 4-fight winning streak. Now, if you're talking about his last 2 losses, you're absolutely correct.
Right. Last 2 losses.
Okay,
yeah.
in 2016, which was 3 years ago when he was 22 years old, and the common opponent, that means nothing to you? I get that MMA math.
No, that doesn't mean anything.
Okay,
no.
So the fact that that Mullarkey actually starched Abel Brights in the first round, in the second round, and Riddell got subbed by him, that doesn't weigh on you at all.
No, it doesn't, because I look at fighters and their skill sets. I mean, maybe those fighters are different and they match up. I mean, there's a reason we say MMA math doesn't work.
Well, right, but in this case, I think it does, because he beat Abel Brights standing, where Riddell is supposed to be this great striker, this power puncher, and not only couldn't he hit him, he couldn't finish him. He got subbed. That's the way I look at it. And again, I agree with you in that MMA math doesn't always work, but I think in this case, MMA math is a bit telling.
Well, but I feel like that's basically what you're hanging your hat on, and I'm going more on what I see from the 2 fighters. And I feel like that's the better way to do it. Mullarkey just doesn't. The fact that he can't. I've seen him not be able to hold position and get reversed from a tired fighter, by the way, who was on his way out, and then get finished in that fight. I just can't do it from a guy who I feel like is strong and powerful and has shown an ability to reverse on the ground. There's nothing in Mullarkey to me that says he's a guy who can take over fights or that he has like a domineering skill set that's going to prevail here. I just don't see it.
All right, guys, I'm stepping in here. You're going to have to agree to disagree. And let's move on to Maki Pitolo at 9,000, taking on Callan Potter at 7,200. Pitolo is the favorite, the rightful favorite. Oh, minus 335. It's come down a little bit. Potter plus 305. Callan Potter may be the worst fighter in the UFC. Like, he's fighting guys out of the stands, basically, before he got to the UFC and got his head taken off by Jalen Turner. Maki Pitolo has power. Seen him on the Contender Series. Can grapple. He's going to be better everywhere than Callan Potter. My only concern is that he's flying around the world and making his UFC debut. Those are the only down marks to Pitolo in this fight, but they are ones to consider, especially when you have a bunch of other big favorites to look at here. So I like Pitolo is one of my favorite GPP plays in the card. I don't know if I trust him enough for cash. He's not a cash game play. I mean, he's not a bad cash game play. It's just you have to weigh all those options I mentioned it. It's high upside, pretty safe, but when you're judging safety, I mean, those narrative issues are something we got to bring up. So Pitolo is definitely the pick to win, and the most likely outcome is he stuffs one Callan Potter takedown attempt and knocks his head into the first row in the first 90 seconds. Chris, how do you see it?
Yeah, I basically Callan Potter was a guy who on the regional scene just seemed to get by with his judo by the fact that he was so much bigger than everybody, and that's not going to be the case here again. I just don't see, like, even when he would use his judo, he would get reversed a lot on the regional scene. And, Pitolo is a guy who likes to pressure and really work the body and really put his combinations together. I mean, if Potter could get his grappling working, I mean, the one thing that you can have to hang your hat on if you want to take a punt on Potter is he's going to go for it early and often. So from that perspective, if you're like, I want to take a shot here, then you want a guy like that because for DraftKings, obviously,
please take my head-to-heads.
He's going to do what you want. I didn't say put him in cash games. I said punts, but or GPP punts more specifically. But yeah, I agree. I don't think Callan Potter is a good fighter. I didn't think so before his Jalen Turner fight, and certainly nothing that's happened since then has done anything to change my mind. So I'm going to take Pitolo here. I feel like he probably gets a finish.
Joe.
See, I'm going to take Pitolo as well, but Potter is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. If you watch film on Pitolo, he can be winning every minute and every second of a fight and then just lose it all of a sudden and fall off a cliff. So I don't agree that he's better everywhere. He's certainly not better on the ground. And Potter is experienced and has locked up submissions in the past. So I do think I am banking like you on the quick knockout. However, I'm going to be really nervous if this fight gets into the second half of the second round and into the third round, because I will be holding my breath that he doesn't, implode, so Pitolo, that is. So I agree he could be a risky play in cash. He's also going to be extremely highly owned. That's another thing to think about when you're playing Pitolo. Very highly owned fighter. I agree, though. This is not one of my favorite Australians on the card. So I'm going to take Pitolo, but I'm just going to say that if this fight gets late, watch out.
Jake Matthews, 9,100, taking on Rostam Akman at 7,100. Jake Matthews, minus 365, comeback on Akman, plus 328. Look, I alluded to it earlier. Everybody used to love on Jake Matthews, and I'd have to defend the guy, saying, look, he's like 23 years old. He's had 10 fights in the UFC or whatever crazy it was. Like, he was growing into his body, young guy, improving. I know Joe always had an issue, probably still does have an issue, where he trains out of basically his dad's garage. Like, those are all concerns, but that people were on him too early, too much, and and he's shown lately, he's come on, shown that he's a good fighter. I know he lost to Anthony Martin. Martin's a good fighter, and Matthews won the first round pretty handily, got tired and lost the neck. And did he get finished in that fight in the third round?
He got submitted.
He faded badly. This fight, Rostam Akman, had a decent showing last time out in his debut against Sergey Kanjoko. I think Matthews, his biggest, so everyone's all over the Matthews is going to take this guy down and sub him. Yes, Matthews can use his grappling. I don't think he should, because his best advantage in this fight is through the striking. He's going to be a far better striker than Rostam Akman. Akman, moves forward. I think he's going to pressure. I think he's going to be the one looking for takedowns to get in top control. And I think if Matthews doesn't get a quick finish, we've seen him fade before. I like the way Akman keeps the pressure on. It's not that Akman can't be knocked out. He's been knocked out once as a pro, once as an amateur. It's possible. Jake Matthews, we've seen him do some weird stuff, and him at minus 365 against a guy who I don't think is terrible. I just think the line is off, and therefore the price is off. So I have Matthews to win, but I think Akman is live, especially if Matthews slows down. Joe.
Yeah. So, by the way, one of the best lines, if you don't know anything about Akman, he is a quite hirsute individual.
Yeah, I couldn't find a way to work that in. But
yeah, one of the best lines about Akman, it was on the Newsome podcast, where they said that if he shaved his chest, Akman, he'd be like Velcro, which I thought was hilarious. As long as Matthews does not get drowned by his wet hair, Matthews, just a bit of trajectory here. So it was a really bad look when he lost as a lightweight to Andrew Holbrook. He was, an 11-1 fighter, 11-2 fighter going into that fight. Lost to Andrew Holbrook as a minus 500 favorite. Took a year off, had some surgeries, came back as a welterweight, rolled off 3 straight wins. His most impressive of which was against Jingling, who honestly, he should have finished if he didn't get eye poked. He was a plus 130 dog, more of an eye poke. It was like a a
The
savage.
gouge. He tried to just
Yeah.
dig his eyes out.
It was a savage attack on the eyes. He got a $50,000 fight of the night bonus for that. Should have got the finish. Again, big heavy favorite against Shinzo Anzai, minus 585. Then now fast forward to Adelaide, fights Rocco Martin, minus 150 favorite. To Sean's point, gasses out. I think he is definitely got plenty in the tank here for Rostam Akman, who's flying in from Germany, I believe, for this fight. I think Matthews, why I like Matthews in cash is I think he gives you grappling points. He gives you striking points. He's going to get some advances. He's going to get some takedowns. Honestly, I would be surprised, if he lost. And if he did, he either needs to give up fighting or, move somewhere where he doesn't have to train in his dad's garage anymore. So I like Matthews a fair bit here. I think he's attractively priced. I think he's a safer play than Megan Anderson. I think he's a safer play than Pitolo. I like Matthews here.
All right, let's move on to.
No, let's get me first, and then we can move on.
11 fight actually,
it's only 11 fights, dude. We're gonna wrap it up.
I want to actually talk about the next fight. I'm actually excited about the next fight because I have even the most.
Well, I'll keep it short and sweet for you. You're right about Matthew's opponent here, whose name is leaving my head.
Akman.
You're right about Akman. You're right about Akman here, that he comes forward, that he pressures a lot. But what you missed is that he got countered basically all fight in his UFC debut, and that's basically how Jake Matthews beat Li Jingliang is with heavy counter strikes, and that's what he's going to do here. He's going to have a million chances with Rostam swinging wide, and Matthews is just going to connect on one of those counter hammers, and probably going to be a setup strike that leads to a finish. I see this fight getting finished. I think that Rostam's style plays right into Matthews' hands. I don't think he's going to need grappling either, so on that point we agree. I think he finishes this fight on the feet, and I think he does it without much of an issue. I'm taking Matthews for the finish.
Love being in the minority. Let's see if I am again. Justin Tafa, 8,300, taking on Yorgan de Castro, 7,900. Tafa is the favorite, minus 120. Come back on de Castro, plus 110. Great GPP fight. I like... you can't call him mini Tuivasa because they're both huge, but I like the Aussie in this one. Justin Tafa, one of my favorite GPP plays on the card. De Castro, 32, making his UFC debut, coming off the Contender Series. His path to victory, he throws a lot of leg kicks for heavyweight. It almost reminds me of Joe's favorite fighter and Chase Sherman. He throws a lot of leg kicks. Could get some takedowns late. The problem is Tafa hits hard. De Castro's hittable. I think this ends quick. I am going to take an overweight stance on Justin Tafa. GPP fight, I'm pretty much all in. The lineups that don't have Tafa have De Castro. This fight should end early, and if it doesn't, I think De Castro wins, and he spends enough time in the later rounds racking up points where it's not a total bust. So, but give me Tafa. I really think he gets it done here in front of the hometown crowd. Chris.
I admire you for having a strong lean on this fight because I certainly don't. I feel like these guys are pretty similar. They're both big dudes who are going to swing overhands until somebody falls. I do agree with you that it probably finishes, and you probably need a lot of it in your GPP lineups. The reason why I'm leaning to Castro here is because I just feel like he's a little bit more diverse. I mean, they both just wing overhands, as I said, but Sean, you mentioned the leg kicks. He actually stopped his opponent on the Contender Series with those leg kicks. He uses them in other fights as well. And I've at least seen him try to wrestle before. I've never seen him complete a takedown, but I have seen him try to wrestle. So that is a point in his favor, I think, especially in a fight where, somebody might need an escape hatch for when they get rocked by one of these big bombs. So I'm going to Castro here just as a little bit more of the more diverse mixed martial artist, and I say that word kind of with a grain of salt because neither one of these guys are all that have all that much in their toolbox. But I think De Castro has a bit more. I think he can turn to a little bit more. I like the leg kicks. They both want to pressure, so that's going to be interesting to see how that falls. But at the end of the day, I say basically what Sean does. You have to have a lot of it. But the side I fall out on is the Castro.
I'm just looking at weigh-in videos before we go to Joe. Just
Anybody else miss?
I don't think so. I'm scrolling through now. Adesanya underweight, wearing shoes and sweatpants. I can't tell if he missed the scale or just a little high up. He looked a little odd getting on, I will say. Those are the ones I've seen. Just kind of update. I thought Adesanya being underweight, wearing clothes was a little interesting.
That is weird.
Joe, how about this one?
Yeah, I mean, flip a coin. I think you do. This is a GPP fight. I wouldn't trust picking a side for cash. I'm going to lean to the home, the Aussie, the Mark Hunt protege. Both of his, I guess his brother's a kickboxer as well. You hope he gets some good training in. But I mean, I almost wish I could, just say play both sides. I might even have more of the dog here just because the salary fits better. But I'll say Tafa, again, I think the play here is inside the distance. I do think, though, one place where I might disagree with Sean is I don't know that Tafa is built to win a decision. I think Castro
No, I don't think so either.
Might have better cardio.
If it goes to decision, I'm picking Castro.
Okay, got it. Okay, fair enough. Then that's the way I see it as well.
Dhiego Lima, 8,400, taking on Luke Jumeau, 7,800. God, this fight's in the main card. This is disgusting.
I don't get it. I don't know how they don't put, look, I don't think it's a better fight, but I don't know how they don't put Megan on the main card.
Yep, totally agree.
Yeah.
Anyway, Dhiego Lima minus 135, Luke Jumeau plus 125. Luke Jumeau might be the worst round one fighter in the UFC outside of Callan Potter.
Slow starter.
He loses every first round. He gets the shit kicked out of him. And he's had two Asians, who have gassed out against him, beating him up for a round, and then he wins the next two rounds. Like that's how he wins fights. It's kind of incredible. One was Dom Steele. Yeah. He's fought two Asians. He beat one of them. Anyway, it's just he gets hit a lot. And at Dhiego Lima, I can't believe I'm picking him to win his third straight UFC fight. But he's back. He's in a good matchup here. I think he's the better striker at range. I think he is going to be able to keep this at distance, not gas out. I do think it's a pretty terrible DraftKings fight, but I'm going to have some Dhiego Lima because, one, I'm picking him to win, and two, with how much Luke Jumeau gets hit, he's going to get chin-checked. Like in his UFC career, he's going to get knocked out soon, and I'm going to have some shares of Lima in case it is Saturday night, but not a great DraftKings fight overall. Joe. Yeah,
so metaphorically, if Luke Jumeau was to have a doppelganger, and if anybody is a student of boxing, there was a New Jersey boxer by the name of Chuck Wepner, whose nickname was the Bayonne Bleeder, who would just take all kinds of damage. And, his claim to fame was that he could last, and he would just wear guys out by lasting. And that's Luke Jumeau. Dhiego Lima's had a nice resurgence. Happy for the guy. I'm not going to have a lot of this fight. I will have a few shares of Jumeau simply because of the salary savings. And if he can wait this out and maybe, Lima gets tired of hitting him in the head, maybe he could pull something off here, but I don't love this fight. Unfortunately, on an 11 fight slate, you really can only pick one or so fights to fade. This is going to be essentially my fade fight, but I will have a few shares of Jumeau and, maybe one or two shares of Lima.
Chris.
Yeah, so I feel like I forgot to zoom in, and again, my apologies there, Joe. But
it's all right.
I feel like there's two basic kind of fighters who counter strike. One is because they're really good and polished, and it's just part of their skill set. And the other kind do it because they really can't offensively strike. They suck at it. And I feel like Jumeau falls into the second category. When he is forced to lead, he does it with these big overhand single shots, which tend to get him countered and hurt really badly. And I feel like that's where most of the guys who hurt him. That's a lot of where that comes from. And Lima likes to do that too. But Lima can also stick out with a good jab there. I think he's going to use his length pretty well, and he's even shown much better takedown defense in recent fights in that Court McGee fight. So to your point, Joe, this was a guy in Dhiego Lima who we had all left for dead. He knocks out Chad Lepre with that beautiful counter hook in that fight. He has a good performance against Court McGee, who he also hurts him with a strike. Who nobody really hurts Court McGee. I mean, he's not a world beater, but he's hard to hurt, and Lima hurt him. So I think Lima's resurgence is real, as much as people might not want to believe in it.
Fair enough.
Because I think he's powerful. I think he's crafty. I like the way he angles off to set up his strikes. I really have to say, I think he might actually be on the come up, and I think he's got more than enough to beat Luke Jumeau. So yeah, I'm on him here.
Powerful.
He knocked out Lepre with one shot, man. He got a one shot down.
A wind of 15 miles an hour could put Chad Lepre on his ass.
And then he knocked down. What's his face? Who nobody knocks down?
Court McGee.
Yeah, it was a flash knockdown. It wasn't an out. Like, he's got some,
excuses.
He scored 63 points in that fight.
All right. Good.
Just saying. Tai Tuivasa, 9,300, taking on Sergey Spivak. Holy shit, 6,900. Tai Tuivasa. How big of a favorite is he now? Minus 340. That's come down a little bit, I feel like. Lines are going all over the place. All the way up to over minus 400 earlier in the week. Spivak plus 310. Just play Tuivasa. Sergey Spivak was knocked out by Walt Harris in 50 seconds. Tai Tuivasa. Spivak's not going to be able to get tied down. The only chance I think Spivak has is if he has somehow improved his chin and weathers a first round storm, doesn't get knocked out and tie gasses. But I just don't. Chris.
Yeah. I picked. I'm here. You got me.
Gotcha.
Okay.
You're good.
All right. I picked Blagoy Ivanov in their last fight, the last Tuivasa fight, because just specifically for the reason you mentioned, Sean, that I thought he could weather the storm and then come after him. I don't think Spivak can weather the storm. Spivak was a guy on the regional scene fighting guys like Tony Lopez and Travis Fulton, and if you don't know those guys, they're like the shop worn.
Don't you dare say a bad thing about Travis Fulton. Don't you dare.
I mean, I can't not say it. They're just basically at this point in their careers, they're just the shop worn guys who float around the regional scenes and give younger fighters wins. Is basically what they are. So Spivak won those fights like that, and I mean his style basically depends on being more physical than his opponent, and I don't think he's gonna have that advantage over Tuivasa. I think Tuivasa is going to come forward and get him out of there, really. Spivak, if he can get him up in a clinch and try to make it dirty and maybe tire him out, although we've seen Tuivasa has had a much better gas tank than the Tuivasa we saw in the regional scene. It seems like he really improved it pretty well. So I wouldn't even be that concerned about the gas tank per se. And other than Spivak just making this dirty and hitting a couple big clinch knees or something, I really don't see that much of a path for him here. So, yeah, I'm taking Tuivasa.
Joe.
Yeah, I mean, not much more to say. I'll take Tuivasa as well here. I think he's going to be very popular and highly owned. Just remember, this is a heavyweight fight. This is by no means, don't be surprised what happens in a heavyweight fight. I like to think that, he will be helped by being at home. However, hark back to the Adelaide card, which was at the last Australia card. Australian fighters lost the last 5 fights consecutively. So talk about having a bad night. And he was one of them. So be careful. I'm going to pick him. I think he's going to be very highly owned. I'm a little nervous playing him in cash, but I like him more than I like Mr. Coconuts. So I will take him in cash. He's going to be popular, highly owned. Give me 2 of us.
Co-main event, Dan Hooker, 8,500, taking on Iaquinta at 7,700. Hooker's the favorite, -160. Iaquinta +150. Everyone's expecting a not great scoring fight, stand-up affair. And I guess on the surface that's true, but I'm going to assume I'm going to steal some of Joe's thunder. So Dan Hooker is 9-4 in the UFC. You guys know that every one of his UFC wins have come by finish?
Yep.
All of them. His DraftKings wins 96, 96, 115, 112, 121, 111. It's as far back as the DraftKings records go, but big scores. I like him in GPPs. I think he wins here. I like him as a personality, as a guy, nice guy. Been around a long time. Has got some of the exposure he deserves. 1-2 in his last 3. Lost to Cerrone. Beat Kevin Lee in a really close fight. You could say he's lost his last 3 fights. And before that, it was a win over Nightmare Sanchez. And then we're back in 2015 before that. Wins over Joe Lozon and Jorge Masvidal before this Masvidal resurgence. And then Ross Pearson. Doesn't usually beat high caliber opposition. Outside of Kevin Lee is only the big name, that he's beaten. Dan Hooker saw him take a beating against Edson Barbosa, bounce back against James Vick, but win over Gilbert Burns, I think it's a big win. Jim Miller's a good fighter. Mark Diakese, I think is more solid than a lot of the wins that Iaquinta has. I think on the feet, Hooker is going to just be too long and too dangerous on the outside. It could be a striking match, but I think Hooker has some sneaky upside here. I like Dan Hooker quite a bit in this matchup. Joe.
So my only concern here is that, Hooker needs a finish to score and win, which all his wins are by finish. Iaquinta's never been knocked out. I mean, he's been subbed once. I don't see Hooker getting a sub here. Again, I just I don't see him getting finished here, and that's where the narrative comes around a low-scoring fight. I actually think that Iaquinta is not a bad cash play because I think he's got a pretty safe floor if he doesn't get finished. I mean, he put up 90 significant strikes in a loss against Cerrone. 111 significant strikes against Lee. By the way, I didn't think that fight was all that close. He took a beat down as a short notice. I think Khabib actually maybe took it easy on him in that fight. Sanchez, 116 points there. He just killed Sanchez. Very controversial win against Masvidal. Many people thought he lost that fight. Lozon has been on his way out for, half a decade. So, but I think Al is tough. I mean, with Al, it was all about getting paid and his commitment to fighting. And I think, he's made some money in his last couple fights. He's kind of seeing that, he's got a few more paydays in him. I think he's going to show up here. I'm not going to necessarily pick him to win. I just think that this might be Dan Hooker's, first decision victory.
Chris.
So I'll be the first to admit I have a habit of underestimating Dan Hooker. I might be doing it again here, but I just feel like if you can pressure Dan Hooker and get him going backwards, you can hit him more easily than you might think. James Vick was able to do that, even though he got knocked out in that fight. The times when he was coming forward, he was having a lot of success. And I just feel like Al is precise in his shots. He can really take some of that length away from Hooker by backing him up, which I think he's going to do. I'll admit that I think I was kind of shocked, not shocked, but I thought that Al was going to do a lot more pressuring in that Cerrone fight, and he really didn't. I think Cerrone used the jab to sort of take that away. I don't think Hooker's jab is quite as good as Cerrone's has been, especially in the last couple of fights. So I think that Al has a lot of things working for him here. And I don't know, like the points taken for Hooker, I do like his creativity in his striking. I think he's a decent counter puncher. We saw him really hurt Gilbert Burns with a counter strike. So all that's to be considered. But I don't know. I just feel like Al throwing on that consistent pressure and solid boxing, I think it might be enough here.
All right, let's talk about the main event. Robert Whittaker, 8,200, taking on Israel Adesanya at 8,000. Lion has been back and forth, actually still going now. Adesanya minus 112 after opening up as a small underdog. Robert Whittaker, the champ, is now the underdog at plus 102. Look, close fight, one of the tougher ones to call. I'm leaning and siding with the champ, Robert Whittaker. Israel Adesanya, look, he's a little hyped up right now. And there's some strong opinions on Twitter on both sides. I don't want to make it sound like I'm an Israel Adesanya hater. I'm not. He's a little hyped up. His only finishes are against Derek Brunson, who just runs in with his freaking chin in the air, and Rob Wilkinson. And a close split decision win over Marvin Vettori. I know he's improved since then. Gastelum, he came on late, got a lot of knockdowns against Gastelum. Gastelum was gassed at the end of that fight. Undoubtedly, Whittaker's the best fighter he has fought. I will say that Adesanya is the slickest, most versatile fighter that Whittaker has fought. And that's what is interesting here, in that I hope Whittaker uses his takedown game, or at least test the takedown defense of Adesanya. I'm not sure he's going to. But at range in this type of fight, Adesanya let Gastelum close the distance. So I'm not crazy concerned about the reach disadvantage for Whittaker. I just think Whittaker is more well-rounded, more equipped to go 5 rounds and win an MMA fight. I will say I'm all in this fight in GPPs. It's close. You can stack it up in cash games. I do think we're going to see at least 4 rounds of action. I think we're going to get into the championship rounds. I don't see a quick finish by either one of them. My actually biggest concern about Whittaker is the durability. And that's because he's shown insane durability those last 2 wars against Yoel Romero. Those things catch up to you. They just do. We don't know when that's going to happen. Tons of injury. The second come back from a long, serious injury after this most recent hernia. But again, Whittaker's got wins over Jacare Souza, Derek Brunson, the 2 over Romero. It's an impressive resume, but when is it all going to catch up to him? Adesanya also, finally today, by the way, I saw a video today. I've been saying all week, man, I hope he's taking this fight serious, because he seemed overconfident and really focused on Paulo Costa. And today he was talking about how he wants to recreate the Holly Holm moment that happened in that building against Ronda Rousey, land a head kick, going to make that happen. And at least he seemed a little more focused on this fight, because everyone's already hyping Adesanya and Costa. We got to get through this fight, guys. And I was worried he was looking past it. I'm coming down off that a little bit, because if you're overconfident against Robert Whittaker, you're going to lose. So if he's in the fight, though, I think it's close. I still side with the champ. Give me Bobby Knuckles. And I do think Adesanya is going to be more popular. So whenever I can get leverage on the champ, sign me up for that one. Let's see. Joe, I know you have a strong take on this one, so I'm going to start with Chris.
Okay, good. Well, I'm gonna try to allay some of your fears there, Sean, because I have a bit of a stronger take than you do. I think Bobby Knuckles wins here too. I think one of my main problems with Israel Adesanya, and we know he's a great, powerful, fluid striker. One of my main problems with him is that if you come forward against
Chris.
him with,
I have to interrupt you. I apologize. Contest.
What's that? Oh, okay, yeah. Go ahead. Go.
I did not do the contest. Okay. As I mentioned in the open, you want to flip over so that the people can see my beautiful.
Oh,
face?
sure. Yeah.
You see all 3 of us. Okay, so contest, giving away a year subscription to Rotowire, their premium package, 1 year, everything in Rotowire premium, optimizers, picks, NFL, NBA, NHL, MMA, soccer, all that good stuff. All you have to do, follow all of us on Twitter. I'm at the DF Sniper. Chris is at Real Chris Olsen. Joe is at Sun Tzu. Use the hashtag FightIQ and tell us the total, both fighters combined, total number of significant strikes landed in this fight. Not Price is Right, not over loses, just who's ever closest. If there is a tie for some reason, I reserve the right to have a tiebreaker next week, and maybe we will have some fun with it if there happens to be a tie. So that's the contest. Follow all of us. Use the hashtag FightIQ and win a year subscription to Rotowire Premium. Okay, Chris, go tell us why I'm right and that Whittaker's going to win.
Yeah, I couldn't believe you interrupted me. I'm backing you up here, man. Let's get going. But I know, and that's a great value too, guys. That's that would cost you a pretty penny if you were just going to buy it. So make sure you guys are in for that one. But on to this fight. I think that one of my main issues with Adesanya, for as great and as heralded a striker as he is, if you come forward with him with offense, you can sort of freeze him a little bit. And we've seen it happen in multiple fights now. A guy who's going to work like Robert Whittaker is, that's a concern. The other thing I would say is, look, it's hard not to look at the head kick that Gastelum caught him with, and then look at the head kick that led to the finish against Jacare Souza in the Whittaker fight, where Whittaker, who has done this before, is very good at throwing his combinations. You duck out to the side, and then that head kick comes. And I think that's going to be a major concern for Adesanya as well. I just think that the pressure and the kicking game and the combinations are going to be a little bit too much for Adesanya here. As you said, we know he's tough. We know he can take a beating and come back. I expect this to be an incredibly exciting fight. I expect both guys to have moments. But I think for the two reasons I mentioned specifically, I think this is Robert Whittaker's fight.
Joe,
you're muted, bud.
Got it. Sorry. Okay, so again, I've pretty much been a fade on Adesanya since Marvin Vettori. I would have loved to have seen a healthy Brad Tavares fight Adesanya and not have multiple injuries. I was at that fight. I would have liked to see Gastelum with better fight IQ. Be that what it may, this is the fight we have. The only reason why I don't exponentially love Whittaker here is because the narrative, the time off, the life-changing fights against Yoel Romero, recovering from surgery. Other than that, I am as confident can be in this fight. Now, with that said, I do have a bet on Whittaker. I am going to be betting more on Whittaker from a DraftKings perspective. I would have exposure to both sides of this fight. If you have the bankroll, I would essentially play, Adesanya lineups in parallel with Whittaker lineups. If you don't have the bankroll, I definitely would go higher weight on Whittaker. If I was playing 10 lineups, I'd probably do something like 7 and 3. I would narrow that ratio down based on how many additional lineups I'm playing. But you certainly want exposure to this fight. I would be very surprised if the winner is not on the optimal lineup. Both of these fighters can score in wins. I do also believe it's going to decision, but if there is a finish, I see it coming from Whittaker. Give me Whittaker.
All right, guys, time for hot takes for UFC 243. Guys in chat, fire them up. Let me know what your hot take is. I'll read a couple of them out. You guys, what do you got? Got any
I got a bet. I got a bet that I'm going to give people here. This is a five pick parlay. I did it on the DK Sportsbook. It pays plus 772. I played this for $100. Robert Whittaker money line. Taha money line. To win by finish, yes, for Pitolo. Winning group of rounds for the Tuivasa Spivak fight. I'm betting that the fight is going to end in either round 1 or 2. Winning group of rounds for Castro Taha. I'm betting that it's going to win in rounds 1 and 2. That again pays plus 772. I like it. I came one Jack Hermanson victory away from cashing on a huge parlay on last Saturday. Did not get it, unfortunately. But here you go. Again, Robert Whittaker money line. Khalid Taha money line. Pitolo to finish. Yes. Alternate winning rounds 1 and 2 for Tuivasa Spivak. Alternate winning group of rounds 1 and 2 for Castro and Taha. Tafa.
That's quite the parlay. Pays big money. Chris, you got one?
Yeah, I'm gonna call this the the unlikely finishers. Now, 2 of them are favorites, but they're not expected to finish. So I think you can give me a ruling if you want, but I think this is going to be fine. I'm going to take Jeon Kim for a finish. Then I'm going to take Riddell for a finish. And then I'm going to take Iaquinta for a finish as my dog. So there you go.
Nice.
The unlikely finishers.
That's very hot take.
Okay, good.
Chad is saying this is a tough week for hot takes. I do agree. So the 2 I got right now before I give mine, I'll read Vince Roadrunner, but I don't think this is really a hot take. Pitolo inside 2 minutes. I think that's the most likely outcome of the fight.
Yeah, that's what people are hoping for too.
But yeah, that will make the chalk hit. Probably the best hot take in here. Aussies roll, clean sweep for the Aussies, which that's a really hot take because that means Callan Potter's going to win.
And that means Luke is going to win too.
Luke's going to win too.
Which
yeah.
goes directly against my hot take, and I'm going to say Dhiego Lima chin checks Luke Jumeau.
Okay.
Not going to be able to keep up that getting hit constantly in the first round.
So I have a question. Does anybody know what the card is actually next week? Do we have off next week?
No, it's Tampa.
No.
Oh, Tampa. That's right. JJ Watterson. Got it.
We don't have off for a while. I was looking forward, man. We're working. We're working.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. I
want to pull this up real quick because now I'm curious what else is on that card. Because I think we got Mackenzie Dern.
I love Amanda Ribas.
I gotta watch some more tape then. Some interesting fights. Oh God, that's the third. What is happening? The UFC's putting some weird. Okay.
Yeah,
this order is wrong. Or the UFC is doing some weird things with their bout order, and I need this explained to me. Because Marlon Vera, Andre Ewell is the first fight of the night.
Yeah, that's a weird one.
Then you got, this is a really good card down at the bottom. Listen to how this goes, guys. You got to indulge me. JJ Aldrich, Lauren Muller. Okay, that should be an opener, but it's not a horrific fight. Marvin Vettori, Andrew Sanchez. That's a good scrap. Then we get what should be the opening fight of the night, Hector Aldana, Miguel Baeza.
Why is that fight even on the card?
Then we got Davison Figueiredo against Tim Elliott. That's a great fight.
That should be should be a co-main event.
Then we got there's some really good fights in this card guys, and then it gets weird up at the very top. Listen to this. This may be one of my favorite cards of the year. Now that I'm reading through this, wow. Max Griffin, Alex Morono, love it.
Yeah, okay.
Devin Clark, Ryan Spann. I like Ryan Spann.
Okay.
That fight should be a little lower down though. James Vick, Nico Price. Yes, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
Eric Anders, Gerald Mearshart. Yes, please.
Yeah. Okay.
Luis Pena, Matt Frivola.
Yeah.
Like that fight a lot. Mackenzie Dern, Amanda Ribas. We know Joe likes that.
I love that fight.
Okay. Then we have a fight that, for the love of God, this fight is right behind the co-main. All those great fights I just saw. And then we get to watch Thomas Gifford against Brock Weaver.
Thomas Gifford's still here, huh? Yeah, exactly right.
What is happening? What is happening? Thomas Gifford on Tapology ranked 181 in the world, and Brock Weaver is the 5th ranked welterweight.
Are you sure this bout order is locked? I mean,
that's what Tapology has. But oh my God, a co-main event: Cub Swanson, Kron Gracie. Like that one.
Did you hear that Cub Swanson said
can't get anyone to train him in jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, that's right. He's getting kicked out of jiu-jitsu schools because he's fighting Kron Gracie.
That's
interesting.
That's really funny. And then our main event, Joanna Violence, Michelle Watterson. So you guys are going to need Joe next week for the main event. So
now, I actually have a hotter take on the Ribas Dern fight, but that's okay.
Yeah, but we all want to know what's going to happen in the main event.
Oh shit! Anyway. Wait, Invicta is on now. Oh man. Make sure
you missed Hope Chase getting a rear naked choke.
Oh my God! Has my girl Shino Van Hoos fought yet?
Last I saw was Hope Chase. I haven't watched all.
Ah man, okay. Invicta, baby. Okay.
So that's what we got for you guys at 243. Good luck in your contest. Make sure and pimp out the contest one more time. Follow all of us on Twitter. Use the hashtag FightIQ. Give us the number of significant strikes landed in our main event. Go to rotowire.com/free. 10 days free trial to all their premium content. No credit card required. That's enough of us jabbering. We will do more of that next week for UFC Tampa. Good luck in your contest. We'll see you then.
Peace.